Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
For 6,000 years,
humans have cracked the whip to get horses to do what they want,
but never really learned
how to communicate until now.
We've cracked the horsespeak code.
This means we can communicate with them in their language
instead of expecting them to understand ours.
Welcome to Cracking the Horsespeak Code. We welcome you to take the journey with us
as we explore the horse's language, mind, and heart. Welcome to Cracking the Horsespeak Code. I'm Laura Wilsey, here with Sharon Wilsey, the founder of horsespeak. And you might be wondering, what is horsespeak? And horsespeak is a way to talk to horses in their language instead of expecting them to understand ours. We use gestures, postures, and signals to communicate with them instead of using force or control to dominate them. And so we're inviting you to take this journey with us today as we explore how we can communicate with a baby horse.
Yeah.
And
really
actually
cool
multiple baby horses today. So it's very cool. Thank you to Bitterroot Ranch out in DuBois, Wyoming for hosting a horsespeak clinic back in August. And we were able to do some great filming. And so we're excited to show you all what we have come up with.
Yeah. So along with what Laura said, some people will contact us and say, you know, how is this like training, or where does training and how do training and horsespeak go together? And what we are teaching is the language of horses. So literally how they use everything from their nostrils to how they flick their tail to communicate to each other. And the thing that they primarily communicate with each other is the sense of safety. So in this case, when Laura approaches the baby horses, she needs to tell those mothers. Now, granted, these are domestic horses, but they kind of live like wild horses.
Yes.
Nobody really touches them. There's an enormous amount of acreage for them to be on. And there are literally bears and wolves and coyotes and things that are out there prowling around with them. So the biggest thing that those mothers and babies need to know about is, am I safe? So when Laura's approaching the horses today, she needs to tell those mothers and babies that I will help make you feel safe. And luckily, we've been able to figure out how horses do that for each other, so then we can emulate it and create the same kind of meaning, which is so important. I mean, in this situation, it's what allows her to get permission from a mother to talk to that baby. And it actually encourages some of the babies to relax and one of the other babies to get so curious that the baby's like, oh my God, what else are we going to do?
Yeah. They just get so intrigued by the practice of me working with their language, and they're clearly understanding what I'm saying. And the mother even, there's a moment we'll show you where the mother is like, yes, that is exactly the button that this baby needs. And one of the things that we're practicing is, especially with these youngsters, is about the bubble of personal space. Mm-hmm. In that we have our personal space and the horse has their personal space, and how we can have mutual respect between the two bubbles so that everyone can stay safe. Because it's also, we're dealing with little horses right here, but think of when, after you see this video, of a giant horse, full-size horse, and popping into your bubble of personal space, and they can knock you over.
They can, and we will show some footage of that giant horse. Laura worked also out there with a Belgian.
Yes.
Who was very skittish, and she needed to gain that horse's trust and confidence. So how horsespeak fits into a person's relationship with their horse is that this can help you answer some of their questions, and in doing so, create a smoother rapport with them. Now, let's say training is something to talk about. So if you want to ride Western or English or trail ride or whatever it is you want to do, that's an activity that you're doing together with your horse, and you both need training. So we need to learn how to ride well, and they need to learn how to carry us well. When you're working with someone, let's say you are on the job and you have a whole bunch of people that you work with at your office, you don't just go in, sit down at your desk and start working. You also say hello and how was your day? And, you communicate with each other. So a lot of the stuff that we do with horsespeak is under the same heading, where you're able to say hello to your horse in the morning. How are you today? Maybe a bear walked through the pen last night and you don't know, but they didn't get a good night's sleep. We've literally had that happen. So by being able to communicate with your horse in their language, you're able to check in with them, assure them, reassure them, and deepen that rapport between you and them. So when you do get to the training, it's a lot more fun because the horse is less distracted. And as you'll see, this baby gets so focused on Laura and on what she's doing. And that's what happens with this stuff, is that you become the most interesting thing in town, but only after she's said, I will protect you. And literally in the middle of this session, a coyote shows up, not 20 feet from where they are. And that's not a big danger as opposed to like a wolf pack, but it's still a concern. And you'll see those mothers take a look. Now, there's been a disagreement in the horse world about whether or not you should look when a horse is scared of something. Because there's an old adage that says, if a horse is scared of something and you look at it too, you're kind of adding to the fear. But what we discovered is that the head horses will look at the dangerous thing and then decide, should the rest of the horses be afraid? So we're not just saying, look at the thing and get scared.
Right.
We're saying, look at what they're looking at and say, I'm the head horse here, I'm the head honcho, and I've decided we're not going to be scared. I see it, nothing to worry about. And horses respond to that gesture. So we're not saying to go and look at something and get scared yourself or act like, oh, yikes, I don't know what that is. We're saying, act like the head honcho and say, that thing over there, don't you worry about that. I've got it covered. And you'll see that Laura has the opportunity to do that because the coyote shows up. And the moment she does, that mother and baby just come right back to giving her the attention.
It was such a fascinating, because one of the mottos that we have is, be mindful of the bees, bears, and the boogeymen, and then also be the coyote kicker, the horse. When you're talking about a wild herd or even, in a domestic situation, each horse has a different role to play. And we're assimilating this to a healthy family system. So we have a sentry, we have a map maker, and we have protectors. And the protectors usually are on the outside of the herd as well as in the back. And so when we're asking a horse to drive forward in front of us, we're saying, we're going to kick those coyotes. And it was just fun for me to be like, wow, a coyote actually showed up. And the lady who was out in the pen with me did run and chase it down, which was so much fun.
And the horses thought that was great.
Yeah. They were like, oh, look at her go.
Great. We don't have to leave. We can stay here because horses are a prey animal and they need to conserve energy for the moments where they might need to run. So their nature is to conserve energy wherever they can. And if we're with them on that and say, hey, you can conserve energy, you don't even have to worry about the bees, bears, and boogeymen or that coyote over there, then they not only conserve that energy, but they relax around you, which also means they can learn better. Just like us, when you went up to in school to the chalkboard and you get there and you weren't paying attention and they send you up.
And you freeze.
And you're like, oh, and you're sweating.
And you can't add 1 + 1.
And that's it. You can never add 1 + 1 for the rest of your life because you were stressed in that moment. Your brain memorized, this is a bad thing. So just like us, horses have a nervous system, and if they get stressed, they can't learn. So when a horse is in a stressed state, you often find people have to repeat and repeat and repeat because the horse is just not really learning the information. They're just kind of doing it by rote. So we want to keep our horses paying attention. We want to keep them calm. We want them to trust us because we're the best deal in town. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
All right. Sounds great. So as we begin, I have my palm up toward the horse, signaling I am respecting your space and I ask you to respect my space. And we call this in horse speak the hold hand. And so I'm taking pauses in that moment when I saw the ear of the horse go on me. So I was like really acknowledging me skating the bubble of personal space around her. And the one thing with working with babies too is that they like to seduce you into their body so you can scratch them. And yeah, there's bugs and everything, but the more you can practice staying on the outside of the bubble of personal space
To begin.
Really is the key to being able to get into the bubble of personal
Right, with
space.
respect on both counts. We call it mutual salute. So I want the horse to respect my space, but that means I need to give what I want to get. So I want to
Yeah.
give a little bit of respect of their space. And then when I get in, if that baby does say, me, 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 I want to get scratched, you can set better manners because you've shown better manners. Horses learn from other horses through modeling. So the better modeling we do, the better they learn from us. Let's continue.
Absolutely.
The other thing that Laura's doing here by skating the edge of the bubble, we call this reverse round pen, because a round pen is you go into this big round pen, you're in the center and the horse runs around you. But what we discovered was that horses, the protector horses, will skate the outside of the herd.
And as that moment happened where the lady started moving, I'll rewind just a little bit, I then had put my hand up toward the woman moving because the horse shifted her attention from me to the lady. And I said, oh, I'll hold your space and I'll hold back the lady so that you're protected from.
So the horse could come back and pay attention to you.
Absolutely.
Because you started it.
Yes.
What we discovered about this palm forward, the horse, is, human beings recognize palm forward as a gesture of, I have no weapons in my hand, so this is a gesture of friendship. And there's been a lot of research done on the effects of body language on people, and it turns out a lot of our hand gestures have almost exactly similar effects on horses, which was totally news to me because I was raised not to think that at all. But when you have your palm forward, it's like a connection. It's like a signal of connection. But also hold, I don't need you to come here. It's not a gesture to say, come here. Mm-hmm. It's a gesture to say, hey, we're connected in space. Hi, I'm with you. But also hold on. Don't just come running over. So it's a way to do both things at the same time. Let's keep going. And here, this is really fun.
Yes.
Laura aimed her palm towards the back of the rump, which is a signal between horses. It says it's okay to lie down. And that baby said, I'm down with that.
And I sat a little bit in my body as well to be like, yeah, why don't we just sit down, take a load off? And I just put out my greeting knuckle a little bit and then a little palm and then just went into the relaxation posture because I could see that this baby was coming in with a very low head and really relaxed. So I was like, why don't you just lay down too?
And that's called mirroring.
Yes.
So in that moment, Laura mirrored what she thought that baby wanted to do, and then there was no resistance in the baby to do it. So it's fun to practice mirroring and modeling. And then when they said, well, we're just going to sit down with these babies.
Well, let's sit down, take a load off for a moment. But always in this moment, I'm pointing and scanning and letting the babies know that I am still aware of what's going on.
Because of her hand motion.
Yes.
Yep. And there's still an awareness. Laura's not going to sleep herself.
Yes.
Because of that, this mother brought her baby close. And the mother came close to her. And there's no food, there's no treats. So this mother horse said, you know what, this lady's interesting. I'm going to let my baby talk to her. And I think secretly she was kind of hoping you'd babysit.
It seems that way.
So that was neat. So Laura touched the backup button. And now she's touching the bridge of the nose to encourage a little bit of moving backwards. And that's just to say, hey, let's greet, but let's have good manners with each other's space. We're just going to practice this manners thing a couple of times. And it's very, very gentle. There's no pushing or shoving.
I'm just using fingertip pressure that we use activation. And the mother comes and checks in because I'm asking
her baby to back.
Baby to back up.
The mother has her nose on the follow me button of the baby. So that's at near the pole of the neck. And she's sniffing now the cheek of the baby.
And I took a break to check on this other baby and just say, we're going to take a pause because the energy got, not that it was a big energy, but it's nice when you're working with a horse to take just a pause to reset and come back in. And the baby shook it off and said, now I'm ready to start the conversation again.
Right. And so she's using her knuckle. This is another gesture to greet the muzzle to say, this is a greeting. I'd like to say hi to you.
And I used my right hand on the bridge of the nose and asked to follow me behind the ear to back up to the backup button right there where I'm pressing now.
And then the mother does the same thing. That's right, baby. You back up. You back up. And this nice lady asks you to.
Yeah.
So Mama was watching the whole time, and she was processing that. And then she said, I'm going to step aside and go ahead and let you talk to my baby full force.
Because using cheek, neck, and shoulder,
like she's doing here,
is a hierarchy conversation.
And you'll see horses do that with these babies all the time.
All the time.
They'll do cheek, neck, shoulder to kind of move them over and say, move over, baby.
And now I did a turnkey come to me is what we say in horse speak. And I, at the cheek, and then also activating the hip to have the horse go in a circle. And so in this moment, I'm pausing to allow, because this is a very strange angle for this yearling to make the turn. And I'm just allowing her to figure out her own balance. And she's actually asking her mom's shoulder to move sideways so that she can complete the turn and come and greet me.
I need to complete this circle. That's the coyote moment.
That's the coyote moment. It's so...
And the baby's like, I'm not even noticing the coyote. Just scratch my bum.
Yeah, Mama's just, she's not in high alert, but she's definitely seeing what's going on over there.
So Laura does a sentry. The ear of Mama comes right onto Laura.
Yep, and the baby went, and her right ear went to me pointing at the coyote.
And the baby realized, uh-oh, there's something more going on here than just us talking. The Mama brought her head back and said, that seems to be okay now.
Yep.
So they went back to their conversation.
And so that was another turnkey. It's a draw motion into the bubble of personal space. So this practice really was about how can we share space. I'm going to ask you to move away, and then I'm also going to ask you to come into my space. And this, again, is a great pause. You can see the blinking happening as she makes the decision and rebalances her entire body to come back into my space.
We always say blinking is thinking.
Yes.
If they're staring, they're not processing. So there's a nice little friendly moment. Let me stroke you there. That's a nice little relaxation. We call it rock the baby. It's just rocking motion. It's just for relaxation. And that baby said, oh, maybe it means back up because you already told me.
Yeah, right.
And what we never want to do is shove a horse backwards. And so the backup button is the way to ask them, because there's a nerve cluster there, can you just roll yourself backwards? And here we have it. She makes a complete turn because she wants to. There's no treats. There's no pressure. The baby just said, that was fun.
And now I'm hungry.
I need a snack.
Mama says, you're not done yet. You need to complete the circle.
Mm-hmm. And how interesting is that? Mama feels so safe about it that she just walked off.
And we got photobombed by...
We got photobombed.
So the reason why we wanted to show you this video today is because of the fact that there was no treats. There was just my body language being precise to do a turnkey come to me at the cheek, and then also activating the hip so that the horse could make that turn completely around. And it's just profound because people are like, this is a trained, you're just training horses, or you can only do this body language, train in advance, or you can only do this stuff with your own horses.
It's really amazing. We've done this with wild horses. We've had other people do it with wild horses. And so having this experience with the babies, she just walked in that field, did one reverse round pen around the whole herd, came in, did a smaller one around the specific horse, and those mothers said, yep, absolutely, you can have access to our babies and you can talk to them. And as you saw, that mother even said, yeah, do what she says. She's a good teacher.
Yeah, and the thing is, with especially horses that you don't know, and even with horses you do know, but they don't know me at all, so I'm going to say, hey, I can protect you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out and not want anything from you, and I'm just going to go around your arena. where you're hanging out and to show you your space, my space. I've got this. I'm scanning around looking for any bees.
I'm going to have good modeling.
Yep.
I'm going to be respectful. So I expect you to be respectful as well. And then we can negotiate. So once you get inside the bubble, then Laura was able to negotiate what my signals mean, because we could have to them an accent. We might sound a little funny when we first start. We have hands, they don't have hands. They have a long neck and head, we don't have that. We only have 2 legs, they have 4. So there's obviously some big differences. But what you could see was that baby saying, I'm understanding you. Could you say it again? And that was the cool part, is that little filly wanted to come back, do it again, do it again, do it again. And we see that so often, that horses will say, oh my gosh, I'm understanding you. Let's keep practicing. So when horses are communicating with each other, they will often practice certain patterns over and over again, because those patterns create harmony, or they create a sense of well-being, or they help to create safety or stability within the herd. So there's certain patterns of communication that they like to talk about, and we happen to know what they are. So then when you can get into the patterns that are a little more interesting for us, like, hey, can you do a turn on the haunches? The horses are like, yeah, that would be fun. Now I can focus on you because we've done all these other things that help me understand you, help me feel calm and comfortable about your position in the hierarchy, and therefore you've got my attention.
Yeah, and one of the things, in the industry is that some people say that a horse is only thinking when they're moving their feet. And as you could see in this video today, that the horse, the filly, was clearly thinking about the request I had. There was that moment where she was blinking her eyes, and you could see the micro movements of her figuring out how to get her front feet to move in balance, because that's their number one thing, is to move in balance. And so we can practice asking them to move in balance, but allowing them to figure it out for themselves rather than a forced maneuver.
And that is I'm really glad you brought that up, because we often want like snappier responses, and like if you're going to go over a jump, you don't want the horse to stop and go,
Let me line this up a little bit better.
About this. So you'll just fall over their neck. You want to kind of have them be able to think on their feet. But anybody who's learning something that's athletic, you need to start off slow. Like you were a basketball player, and how many practice things did you have to do?
Hours and hours and hours, especially for free throws and for other, shooting techniques. It was really how to get the elbow and the knee to be in alignment, and everything moves in one motion, and, a set shot versus a jump shot. And so each one of those mechanics took a long time. And then you can't forget about your weak hand as well. So you should be doing drills with your weak hand. So there was a lot of hours. I don't even know.
And I remember you telling me that there was some times where the coach would really slow you down and say, no, you're not catching that motion correctly. You need to just do it really slow without a ball several times in a row, and then do it with the ball.
And I think for basketball, but as well as learning horse speak, it's really important to watch video of yourself, because then you can see where you might be missing the mark, because you
think you're saying it.
Yeah.
You think or you're just training the horse, and you think, I told him to go, walk this way and stand there in that corner. But actually you had your belly button on the horse too much, which is a draw. So a lot of times if your belly button's on, they feel like, oh, I should come closer. Or if your belly button's on and your shoulders are squared up, it's a drive. So the horse said, I shouldn't get any closer at all. And you're like, I told him to come to me. We've had a lot of people say that. Why won't my horse come in? And we're like, because you're driving.
Because your X posture through your shoulders is a driving force. And if you think about people that you communicate with in your life that may be too much X, and you're kind of like, they're not very welcoming. But then you have the people who are in more O posture, that are more huggers, then you can be like, oh, I want to be in their space, because they're not driving you away. They're actually saying, yeah, you can come in and sit on my lap or what have you. And so horses are reading our body language very similarly. And one of the keynotes, I think, of what we're practicing here with horse speak is to have the respect and the similar social dynamics that we share as humans, but with the horses as well. Because if I had just met Sharon for the first time, I'm not going to go up and just pat her in the face.
Even if you know me really well. Don't
Yeah,
do
I'm
that.
still not going to do that. And it's the same goes for horses, that they want us to respect them and greet them. And then, as you could see, because I did the protocols that Sharon has spent, years, over a decade of time studying all the herd dynamics, because everything we're teaching here with horsespeak is from the herd.
Right.
And watching all different kinds of herds with all different kinds of age groups of horses, and to seeing how they're teaching each other to have the respect of each other's bubble of personal space.
Exactly. I wanted to come back to one little thing. We talked a lot about having respect for the bubble. And then when you get inside the bubble, you can say some more interesting things. And there's a lot of people that we run into that say, but I want affection. I have a horse, and I love the way they smell, and I love the way their fur feels, and I like it when they come and they nuzzle me. And so we're not saying you can't have affection with a horse.
Because they're having affection right now.
They are. They're
Because
having
everything around them is completely safe.
Right. What we're saying is there's a simple protocol that they follow with each other to make sure the environment is secure before they stop paying attention to the environment long enough to have a groom. If the environment is not safe, they're not going to groom each other. They're going to pay attention to that first. So the more we follow those protocols and say, let's make sure the outer world is safe, the bubble is safe and secure, my relationship with you is safe and secure, we can relax about all that stuff. Now, would you like a snuggle? And at that point, horses say, it feels good. It feels good to me. Yes, I'd like a snuggle. If you have a horse who's a bubble popper, a lot of times, because they've been handled in a way that's not necessarily aggressive or anything. Well, the horse may be like, oh, people have food, they have treats, they have scratches, I like it. And people think, oh, this is kind of like a big dog, and come on in, but then it's too much. And the problem with a bubble popper is either they didn't get socialized really well, so they haven't learned it, or someone had a lot of treats or had a lot of did not have any boundaries with them. The problem with that is that horses are big. So if something happens, like a loud sound, and they startle, they can run you over or knock you over, and they don't mean to. It's just, my toddler grandson was behind me in the kitchen a couple days ago, and I didn't know it, and I turned around and knocked him right over.
There he is, yeah.
I didn't mean to knock him over. But, this is the same thing. We're little, they're big. So we have to have rules of how we're going to be around each other's spaces so that we're safe too.
And the other keynote about what you were just saying is having the awareness of where their exit's going to be, because they are concerned about safety. If something were to happen, like the coyote, these guys were totally fine with the coyote, and my friend went out and dealt with the coyote. But you have to remember that they may need to move, and it would be just like that. So
which is why you spent so much time helping the baby to say, can you back up well, not shoving it backwards, using the backup button, which is located in the crook of the elbow. So it's the front of the arm, the front of the eye of the elbow of the horse. Look on an anatomy chart, you can find that. But that's literally the joint. When that joint gives, connected to the front leg, the rest of the joints of the body give, and they just easily flow backwards. And the reason you spent time doing that is if something happens, she's out there in a group of horses, and she'd want that baby to know, don't run into my space. So let's practice having you move backwards and away from my space. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't a correction. It was an instruction to say, you know what? If something happens, don't run me over. Look, you can go backwards, which means you could then go left or go right, and that would help us to know where to be. And it's so interesting because when Mama caught on to what Laura was saying, Mama touched the backup button too and said, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, going on this journey of learning about horsespeak. And as we continue to grow and learn more about the horse and their perspective and how we can share the space with them and also ask them to please respect our space. We can go deeper and deeper into the mind and the heart of the horse so that we can completely have these wonderful rapport and relationship and do whatever it is you want to do with your horse. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.